Welcome back, everyone. Hi, if you're new, I'm Tori, and today we are going to talk about all of my biggest anticipated releases for 2026. I know I say this every single year, but truly, this is going to be a really good year for releases. We've got some big debuts coming out, big sequels coming out, established authors who are finishing their series this year, and some that are starting a brand new series in 2026. So it's a lot. It's a lot of good stuff. I could not be more excited, and I'm really looking forward to a year of good reading, good content with you guys, and it's going to be a great year. I do have over 20 books to share with you guys, so I'm not going to spend too much time on each one. Some descriptions are going to be more brief than others, but I do really encourage you, if any of these sound interesting to you, definitely follow the release date for yourself, because some are not completely set in stone and then others could change as we go through the year. And also, I do plan to do another video like this sometime in like late May, early June, just because at that point we'll have a much better idea about what the second half of 2026 is looking like, because I do have a couple of months on here where I don't have any anticipated releases. So I think it'll just take better shape as we get a little bit farther into the year. But again, that being said, a lot to talk about here. So much good stuff. So let me know what's on your radar for 2026. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let's get into it. I have all the books, all the descriptions here. So if I keep looking down this way, I'm looking at my laptop, and yeah, just to keep myself organized. So not too many releases that are catching my attention in January. I do have one release though that's coming out at the end of the month, and that is Halcyon Years by Alastair Reynolds, which is coming out on January 27th. I actually think this book is already out in the UK and maybe in other places, but the US release is January 27th. And even though I am really excited for this book, I do think I want to get one other Alastair Reynolds under my belt before I jump into this one, because I do have a couple on my shelf that I've really been meaning to read. House of Suns definitely is one that I want to get to, so I still think I'll read that one first. But Halcyon Years sounds amazing. Our main character, Yuri, is this private investigator who is aboard this starship called the Halcyon, or the Halcyon. And this is a starship that's carrying thousands of passengers, and Yuri is hired by this mysterious woman on the ship to investigate a member of this prominent family on the ship who has been murdered. Then we've got some good ones coming out in February. On February 10th, A Day of Breath by Darby Cox is coming out. I'm really excited for this one. I've been mutuals with Darby on TikTok for a while at this point, so I've gotten to kind of like see her journey with this book, talk about it being published, and talk about the release date and everything. So really excited for her, and excited to jump into this release when it comes out. It says that this book is good for fans of Naomi Novik and N.K. Jemisin, and we have our main character Ollie, who has been like this long-serving champion for her kingdom and has been guarding it against these demonic hordes. But one day we find out that our main character has started to lose her powers and is starting to weaken, and we don't know why. Coming out on February 24th, we've got The Red Winter by Cameron Sullivan. This is one that has definitely been getting some early buzz, and it sounds so good. This sounds like it's going to be a dark historical fantasy. This is the retelling of The Beast of Gévaudan, and our main character Sebastian, he is a monster hunter, and so he's had experience with this beast, and so it sounds like in the book he's going to have to confront this beast once again. I'm very excited for this. I do have an e-arc of this book, so I do want to prioritize it in January or early February, because again, it comes out a little bit towards the end of the month. Also on the 24th, we've got The Iron Garden Sutra by Adi Sway coming out. I'm looking forward to this one because last year I read the author's novella called The Dragonfly Gambit, and so now this is, I believe, their first full-length novel, the first book in a new series called The Cosmic Wheel. So yeah, looking forward to reading more from this author in the new year. It says that this is Clara and the Sun meets S.A. Barnes' Dead Silence with a touch of Becky Chambers' A Psalm for the Wild Built. It says that this is Adi Sway's darkly philosophical murder mystery as a death monk and a team of researchers trapped on board a spaceship of the dead encounter something beyond human understanding. Let's get into March. This is about to be a really good month. Just to kick things off at the beginning of the month, we've got River of Bones and Other Stories coming out by Rebecca Roanhorse on March 3rd. I remember I saw Saga Press post about this, and I think I screamed. Rebecca Roanhorse has her Sixth World series that starts with Trail of Lightning and Storm of Locusts. I thought that was going to be like a 5-ish book series, but we have not gotten anything in that series in years. And I love those two books so much. Trail of Lightning was so good. And then the sequel, Storm of Locusts, was just incredible. And so I've been devastated for years that we have never gotten anything else in that world. So this book, River of Bones and Other Stories, is a collection of Rebecca Roanhorse's sci-fi and fantasy short stories. And it's also going to include a novella in this Trail of Lightning universe. I could not be more excited. I will be at the bookstore day one picking this up. And then also on the 3rd, we've got a really interesting book coming out. I saw this one when I was browsing through NetGalley. This is called Ghosts of Kurosawa, and it says that this is The Bourne Identity meets John Wick. I'm not like a big fan of The Bourne Identity, but I do really love John Wick. It says that this is basically like a descent into Tokyo's criminal underworld, where an assassin must confront his past to stop a deadly genetic virus. So yeah, that sounds good, and my calendar is definitely marked for the 3rd. And then on the 17th, we've got another really big one coming out. I am so excited for this one. This one I think is going to be one of my priority reads for February, because I do have an e-arc of this one as well, and I need to read this, and I would love to get my thoughts out to you guys before this book comes out. And that is The Book of Fallen Leaves by A.S. Tamaki, which is coming out on the 17th. This says that our main character, Hoshiakari, is the exiled son of a traitor and is determined to restore his decimated clan to their former power at any cost. But his path collides with that of Rui, a low-born woman who once saved his life, and he discovers his family ambitions may have paid a darker price than he ever knew. I told you these books sound so good this year. And then coming out on March 24th, we've got another good one, and this is Daughter of Crows by Mark Lawrence, which is going to be the first book in a new series. Quick backstory. Years ago, this was a long time ago, I read Mark Lawrence's book, One Word Kill, and I just liked it so much. I didn't want to pick up anything from Mark Lawrence for a long time. And just other descriptions of his books have never really called out to me that much. I know his big series that just recently ended, like The Library, The Book That Wouldn't Burn, that series didn't really sound interesting to me. His Red Sister series, kind of been on the fence about. So never really been like too drawn to Mark Lawrence's series in the last several years. But this one in particular, when I saw this one announced, I was like, oh wait, this actually sounds really good. Mark Lawrence, you finally got me. I'm back. So in this, we have what's called the Academy of Kindness, and desperate families, they sell girls there. Every year, the Academy of Kindness takes 100 girls, and every 10 years, only 3 of them from that 100 emerge. So we have that as a, really good sounding foundation for the story. But what really spoke to me and what got my attention for this book is it sounds like our main character sold herself to the Academy. So I was like, oh, well, now I have to see what's going on in this. And then coming out on the 31st, we've got another one that has been getting quite a lot of early buzz, and that is This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me by Alona Andrews. I've never read anything by this author duo. I know they have that really big paranormal series. So I'm excited to dive into this one and just see how I vibe with the writing, their writing style. So this is described though as a page-turning, unforgettable fantasy set in a city peopled with ruffians, spies, malcontents, and murderers. Sounds interesting. I'm there. Also coming out on the 31st, we've got a horror novel that really grabbed my attention, and that is The Curse of Hester Gardens by Tamika Thompson. This sounds really good. I've kind of been dabbling into horror here and there over the years. Love Tananarive Due. I really love some of Victor LaValle's horror. So I definitely want to get a little more into horror this year, reading, of course, more Tananarive Due because I have so much of her work on my backlist. Also finally reading Stephen Graham Jones this year. So now that I'm kind of like in this horror mood, seeing the description for The Curse of Hester Gardens really jumped out at me. So it says that this is We Need to Talk About Kevin, as if written by Jason Reynolds and Tananarive Due, meets Model Home by River Solomon. I'm there. I love all 3 of those authors, Jason Reynolds, Tananarive Due, and River Solomon. It says that this is an innovative twist on The Haunted House about a mother desperate to protect her sons from twin specters of gun violence and other worldly menace in their public housing project. Also on the 31st, we've got another big one coming out, you guys. We've got Steel Gods by Richard Swan, which is the 2nd book in his Grey Silence series. It started last year with Grave Empire, and I had a good time with Grave Empire. For me, I didn't think it was as strong as picking up like book 1 of Empire of the Wolf trilogy, because I absolutely loved The Justice of Kings. I mean, they're completely different, even though it is, I think, like 200 years later. Different set of characters, different, brand new storyline going on, all of that. But just in terms of a book 1, I think I liked Justice of Kings and just was hooked into that original trilogy a bit quicker. But overall, I mean, I had a good time with Grave Empire. I'm a big fan of Richard Swan at this point anyway, so definitely am going to keep on with this Great Silence series. So yeah, Still Gods is definitely high priority on my TBR when this comes out. Coming out in April, I don't have too much at the beginning of this month just yet. Everything is a little bit towards the back half. 3 books coming out on the 21st that have my attention. The first one is The Language of Liars, which I believe is a novella by S.L. Huang coming out. Yoon Ha Lee describes this as pitch perfect science fiction about linguistics and the consequences of that. One of my favorite things in science fiction is sci-fi books that deal with language and linguistics. I cannot get enough. I love those books. One of the big ones I still need to read is Embassy Town by China Miéville. And I do have a Miéville that is on my anticipated releases list. So I do want to read Embassy Town, but just in terms of other books that I have read and absolutely loved, Lexicon by Max Berry, one of my all-time favorite books. Babel 17, Samuel R. Delany was also incredible. Stories of Your Life and Others, Ted Chiang, absolutely phenomenal. So I love anything to do with linguistics, language, and sci-fi. So just even seeing that as a buzzword, I was like, oh, put it on the TBR. Also on the 21st, we've got Witch Queen Rising coming out by Savannah Stevens. This has been described as a lush and haunting debut. Sounds amazing. So Witch Queen Rising is paranormal fantasy, which is a subgenre I don't read too much from, but I would like to start dipping my toes into it a little bit more, because on the rare occasion when I do read it, it is just a lot of fun. It's so gritty, it's good world building. So more to come with paranormal fantasy, but in this we have a reclusive witch named Seraphine who fled the burden of her bloodline and will rise to be the greatest among them. That sounds amazing. We'll be picking that up too. And then also on the 21st, we've got Japanese Gothic coming out by Kylie Lee Baker. This will be a new to me author in 2026. I have seen her books going around here and there, but you know, nothing really calling out to me like that. But this one in particular sounds really, really good. So this is historical horror. We have 2 timelines going on. One is 2026, and it says, you know, we have a main character who doesn't remember how or why he killed his roommate. And so this main character flees to New York. And then in our other timeline, this is 1877, and we have our female character, and she is hiding from Imperial soldiers. It sounds like there's a monster wearing her father's face coming home from war, and she may have to kill her mother. It just sounds really chaotic. But what really hooked me, it says in the description that one of these people is a ghost, and one of these stories is a lie. I was like, oh, okay, what's Kylie Lee cooking up? Coming out on May 5th, we have got one of my biggest releases of 2026. This book was announced really early, so I actually had it on my list for 2025 anticipated releases, and that is The Last Contract of Asako by Fonda Lee. I cannot wait for this book, you guys. I will read anything from Fonda Lee. Fonda Lee is my auto by author, like just Greenbone Saga, all-time favorite fantasy series. So at this point, like, she has earned my auto buy. I cannot wait for this. So this is going to be a standalone space opera. It says that Asako is a legendary swordswoman, but every legend has to come to an end. And it also says that when Asako's longtime client retires, Asako also feels like she should retire, but she gets pulled back into a final mission, and it's one that she cannot refuse. Take the money. Take the money. I will be at the bookstore camping out day 1 to get this book. Oh, just cannot wait, you guys. Cannot wait. Also on the 5th, we got a really interesting sci-fi coming out that's called The Republic of Memory by Mahmoud El-Sayed. It says the Safina is a city ship 200 years into its voyage from the ruins of Earth towards a new habitable world. Over the years, the crew, they have maintained the ship for generation after generation. Also, there's ancestors in cryosleep. And it sounds like at the start of our story, you know, we get people on the ship just kind of questioning what's even going on, like why are they still even doing all of this. So I can't wait to see how that story is going to unfold, but this one definitely is one that has my attention. And then May 19th, we've got another of my biggest releases of 2026. That would be none other than The Tapestry of Fate by Shannon Chakraborty, which is the 2nd book in the Amina Al-Sarafi series. I have been waiting on this book for so long. Even since I finished book 1, The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi, I was like, okay, where's the 2nd book? I love that first book so much. Chakraborty, she's another one of my auto-buy authors. Like, David trilogy, River of Silver, first Amina book. Like, whatever she writes, I'll be there. It's just incredible. I love her world building. I love how rich it is, how lush it is, the historical details that she weaves into the writing. And I just had such an amazing time with Amina Al-Sirafi. I love Amina as a main character. I cannot wait for another one of her adventures in this book. It's just going to be a good time. This sequel is a long time coming, and I'm so excited that we're finally going to get this in May. I cannot wait. And then at the very end of May on the 26th, we have got Season of the Serpent by Suyu Davies Okumbawa coming out. This is, I believe, I don't know if this is going to be a trilogy or a longer series, but this is his Nameless Republic series. I actually have not started this series yet, but I do have the first book, which is Son of the Storm on my shelf. I just need more of Okumbawa, so I definitely want to get to this in 2026. I read and loved his novella Lost Ark Dreaming, made my top 5 of 2025. And yeah, this is an author that I just want to keep reading more from. Definitely want to get into his fantasy series. Coming out in June, we've got another anticipated sequel for 2026, and that is A Dance of Burning Blades by M.H. Allende, which is the second book in the Invoker trilogy. The first book, A Song of Legends Lost, also made my top 10 best books of 2025. I loved it. Loved everything about it, from the world building, the big cast of characters, how Allende juggled all the POVs, the ancestral magic. If you guys still have not picked up A Song of Legends Lost, highly recommend. It was so good. So at this point, I don't have anything on my anticipated list for July, but again, I am going to do this video again sometime in like late May, early June, because at that point we'll have a much clearer picture of what's going to be coming out the second half of the year. So nothing in July. Moving into August, I've got one book, and that is The Infinite State. Again, we've got another Richard Swan on the list. This is August 4th. I've really loved Richard Swan's fantasy. I think he has been just such a great new voice for the last few years in the fantasy space. But now we are getting his first sci-fi, which is just going to be, it sounds really good. So the description for this is kind of long, but just the first few sentences of this says that in this blistering sci-fi epic, Swan presents a thrilling tale of survival and an eviscerating examination of totalitarianism. It says the Infinite State begins at a flashpoint in the lives of a widowed party member, a disgraced investigator, and a hypersled pilot entangled in a plot to escape the suffocating authority of a fascist state. That sounds like it's going to be so good, and I just cannot wait to see what Richard Swan is going to do in sci-fi. That's really cool. And moving into September, on the 1st, we've got Deadbeat coming out by Leigh Bardugo. This is the third book in the Alex Stern series. Started with Ninth House, book 2 was Hellbent. And this series has really been drawn out. I feel like, I don't remember, did Ninth House come out in like 2018, 2019? I mean, Leigh Bardugo, granted, she's been really busy, like, over the years with the Shadow and Bone adaptation. The Familiar came out. So yeah, she's incredibly busy, but this still has been a really long, like, publishing window for the Alex Stern series. But I'll be there for Deadbeat. I love Ninth House. I've said that a few times over the course of this channel. Like, I really love Ninth House. Hellbent was fine. Like, a little underwhelmed by it. Was nowhere near as good for me as Ninth House was, but I'm still invested in this series, and yeah, I'll be reading Deadbeat when it comes out. And then on the 15th of the month, we've got Exit Party coming out by Emily St. John Mandel. I am really looking forward to this one. I don't know why I don't mention Emily St. John Mandel more on my channel, but in case you didn't know, I read Station 11 a long time ago, and Station 11 is, I would still consider it like somewhere in my like top favorite books of all time. So love Station 11. I did read The Sea of Tranquility a few years ago at this point and thought it was good. Nowhere near as great as Station 11 was for me, but still really enjoyed it. And Emily St. John Mandel is just an author who, I've really liked over the years. So this is 2031. It says America is at war with itself. And our main character, Ari, is newly released from prison, and she goes to this party with her friend, and she just gets the feeling that something is a little off. She feels like people at the party shouldn't be there, and something is like very clearly wrong. And then it says years later, living a different life in Paris, Ari remains haunted by the night at that party. Whatever happened fractured her sense of reality, and it may be the key to a very different world. This sounds good. My calendar is marked for this release, and excited to have another Emily St. John Mandel on my shelf. And then this next book here, I'm not quite sure about this release date. The publisher website says the 17th, but I think that's a Thursday, so this might not be the US release, but we have The Rouse coming out by China Mieville. At this point, this is still pretty far out, so the description is a little sparse, but it says, we have an ordinary woman who stumbles upon dark conspiracies and provokes the attention of uncanny forces. And it says that this is going to be a deeply moving, decade and continent spanning novel. This one definitely has my attention. I've only read one China Mieville, which was The City in the City. I read that years ago and loved it so much it turned me into an automatic fan. I was like, yeah, I need to read more Mieville. So I do, I mentioned I do have Embassy Town that I want to get to, and Perdido Street Station is probably the biggest that I want to read. So excited for more Mieville in 2026, and this release definitely is on my calendar. Finally, in October, on the 27th, we've got The Judge of Worlds coming out by Daniel Abraham, which is the third and final book in the Kithamar trilogy. I love the first book, Age of Ash. It made my best books of the year in 2025. I feel like most of the books I'm mentioning in this video, that made my best list. But I mean, the books have just been so good. I just really appreciate great setting, great environment. I love when setting feels like character. And I think Daniel Abraham just did a fantastic job with that with Kithamar. It just was so gritty and well realized and fleshed out. Really enjoyed our main character and the cast that we got in that book. So definitely will be reading the second book, Blade of Dream. And when the third book comes out this year, I will certainly be ready for that. And then finally, guys, let's kind of get into the TBD section of the video. So these are books, some of them, one of them I think has officially been confirmed for 2026, but still no actual release date for it yet. And then the other ones on this list are books that we could get in 2026. And then I have a couple that I'm just really hopeful that we'll get in 2026. The first one that I have here is the one that has been confirmed for 2026, just no release date. And that is The Fox and Winter by Antonia Hodgson, which is the second book in the Eternal Path trilogy. Book one being The Raven Scholar. That was a book that I actually really enjoyed in 2025. I had a fun time with it, but just barely missed my top 10 list of 2025. But again, it was a fun read. I really appreciated the spin on traditional trials and competition, because that's not a trope that I just love in fantasy, and I just feel like we have so much of it these days. But that one just felt really fresh and really fun, so I liked it in that. And yeah, I enjoyed the book enough where I definitely will be reading this sequel when it comes out. Another one that we have coming out this year is a new novel from M.A. Carrick, which is The Eye of Leviathan. This is the first book in their new series called The Sea Beyond, so sounds really intriguing. I have been still working my way through their Rook and Rose trilogy. I did read book 2, The Liar's Knot, in 2025, and I enjoyed it. So I do want to wrap up that trilogy with Labyrinth's Heart sometime in 2026 and then move into their new series. Finally, guys, I have a few hopefuls for 2026. The first one, there is always a chance that this does not come out in 2026, but if it does come out this year, this will easily be my biggest, not one of, it will be my biggest anticipated release, and that is none other than Red God by Pierce Brown, which is the final book in the Red Rising saga. Red Rising has been one of my favorite series for years at this point. It has solidified itself somewhere very high in my all-time favorite sci-fi fantasy series, and I'm just really excited to see how this is gonna wrap up, and especially the second half of this saga. Iron Gold, Dark Age, Lightbringer have just been phenomenal. Lightbringer was, I think I need to reread Lightbringer. It was so good. At this point, what more can you say about Red God? I feel like so many of us just have our fingers crossed really, really hard that this does actually release in 2026. And if it does, it's easily going to be the biggest release of 2026. And then another one that I'm really hopeful that will come out this year, but just still really no news about it at all, is the third book in the Burning series by Evan Winter, which would be Lord of Demons. If this does come out this year, I feel like I'm gonna need a good refresher for The Rage of Dragons and The Fires of Vengeance, because it has been a long time since I read both of those books. I do have my fingers crossed for Lord of Demons. I've been anticipating this third book for years at this point, so I really do hope 2026 is finally the year that we get this. And then two of my other big hopefuls for the year, I don't know if we're gonna get them, but if we could even just get one of them, I'll be so happy. But the first one is the sequel to Red City by Marie Lu. I loved Red City so much. It was my #1 book of 2025. Just so amazing. I love our two main characters, love the use of alchemy, the action, the world building. It was just so good. Even if we don't get the sequel, I hope we just at least get some news about the sequel. That would just be amazing. I also hope that we get some news about the Birth of a Dynasty sequel by Chinaza Bado. That was also just amazing. That also made my best books of the year in 2025. Just go watch the best books of the year video at this point. Like, there's so many books that I've talked about that are continuations or series endings of books that I, read in 2025 that I just was blown away by. Birth of a Dynasty was amazing. Absolutely love our two main characters, love the full cast, the history of the world. It was all just incredible. So if we get the sequel in 2026, I will definitely be a happy camper. So yeah, that is it for me, you guys. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. That was a lot of information, a lot of books. But again, I mentioned like this is going to be a really, really big year for releases. Just so much good stuff coming out in 2026. And every single one of these that I mentioned is on my calendar for the year. So let me know if we have overlap, which I'm sure we do because these are some big releases. So I know there's going to be some overlap somewhere. But yeah, I want to hear about what you're excited for this year. Thank you all again, and I will see you in the next video. But until then, take care.